the 29th day of June 2023. Hello and welcome to the News International Edition. We are coming to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I'm Emma Akwero. Now we start off from Sudan, where Sudanese families that have been displaced from the capital, Khartoum, prepared a feast to mark the Eid al-Adha at a school turned into a camp in Wad Madani, the capital of Sudan's Al Jazeera state. Hundreds gathered in the Sudanese capital Khartoum on Wednesday to pray for peace on the first day of Eid al-Adha Muslim holiday, but gunfire shattered the brief despite residents said.
Witnesses in the capital's twin city of Omdurman late Wednesday reported airstrikes and anti-aircraft fire despite separate unilateral truces announced by the warring generals for the holiday. Nearly 2,800 people have been killed and more than 2.8 million displaced in the war between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his deputy-turned-rival Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, who commands the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF. Burhan on Tuesday called for Sudanese youths and all those able to defend to take up arms with the military. His appeal echoed one from the Defense Ministry last month and has been widely rejected by civilians. "We pray to God to make our country safe and secure," Bake said, rejecting Burhan's call to arms after the early morning prayer that rang in the three-day festival, normally a highlight of the year for Sudanese. In neat rows in an empty courtyard, men in white and women in brightly colored outfits gathered to pray, embracing and wishing each other well in a rare moment of respite from more than 10 weeks of relentless gunshots, airstrikes and artillery fire that have reduced civilians' homes to rubble. Similar prayer gatherings took place outside Khartoum, including in Jazeera region, where many have fled from the capital. With millions trapped in the embattled capital, still rationing electricity and water in the oppressive heat, families struggled to conjure up holiday cheer. In past years, those Sudanese Muslims who could afford it would slaughter an animal for Eid, but now a record 25 million people in Sudan need humanitarian aid, the UN says. Multiple ceasefires announced by both sides have been systematically violated, as well as others mediated by the United States and Saudi Arabia.
Still from Sudan, Muslim worshippers gathered in the capital, Khartoum, to pray for peace on the first day of Eid al-Adha, a day after Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan called on the Sudanese youth and all those who are able to defend to take up arms with the military, a call that has been widely rejected by civilians. Here's what many youths had to say.
I am against Burhan's call to tell the youth to take up arms and fight with the army, because if these youths never fought in the battle or carried any weapons before, they will not be of any use to the army. On the contrary, they might do it a disservice. I would like to wish a happy Eid to all the Sudanese people. We pray to God to make our country safe and secure and end conflicts. May He make our armed forces and our country victorious. I am against the army's decision to ask for all the citizens to bear arms and fight the rebels of the Rapid Support Forces. This is a very wrong decision by the army and is out of place. I hope they move in the right direction and avoid further conflict within the country.
Now away from Sudan and to Ukraine, emergency service workers cleared and searched through the rubble after a Russian missile strike on a restaurant in the Ukrainian town of Kramatorsk. A toll from a Russian missile strike on a restaurant in eastern Ukraine rose to 12 dead and at least 60 wounded on Thursday morning after a strike which destroyed a pizza restaurant with three children counted among the dead. Now, the Russian Defense Ministry claims it hit the base of temporary deployment of the commanders of the 56th Motorized Infantry Brigade of the Ukrainian Army in Kramatorsk. Earlier, Ukrainian authorities said the Ria Pizza restaurant in the eastern city of Kramatorsk was hit by a Russian missile, killing at least 10 and injuring 61. 3 children were among the dead, and President Zelensky has called this a terrorist attack.
The toll from a Russian missile strike on a restaurant in eastern Ukraine rose to 12 dead and at least 60 wounded on Thursday morning, including children, as the Kremlin insisted Russian forces only hit military-linked targets. In the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk, in the Donetsk People's Republic, the temporary deployment point of the commanders of the 56th Motorized Infantry Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine was hit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, meanwhile, called the Kramatorsk strike a terrorist attack and in his Wednesday evening address announced the arrest of an individual who had coordinated Russian fire. Today, the Security Service of Ukraine, together with the police special forces, detained the person who coordinated this terrorist attack in Kramatorsk. They struck a cafe in Kramatorsk, a popular pizzeria. In the Ukrainian-controlled town, where Russian strikes also hit homes, shops, a post office and other buildings, rescue workers removed another body on Thursday morning, bringing the death toll to 12, according to Kyiv's Interior Minister, Igor Kilimenko. 3 children were among the dead, but the count of the wounded differed, with Kilimenko putting the figure at 65 and emergency services counting 60. The latter also said 11 people had been rescued from the restaurant. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said that 3 Colombians were injured in the strike. Decorated writer Hector Abad, Fesio Lins, former Colombian peace negotiator Sergio Jaramillo, and journalist Catalina Gomez. According to Ukrainian police, Russia fired 2 S-300 missiles, surface-to-air devices that it also uses for ground strikes at Kramatorsk, which had a population of 150,000 before the war. Moscow maintains that it only targets military facilities in Ukraine. In a meeting with the head of the southern Russian province of Dagestan, parts of which were aired on state television, Putin on Wednesday said that he didn't doubt that he had the support of Russians during the mutiny. A feud between Wagner and the Russian army had escalated for months, with Prigozhin making increasingly scathing statements against the general's handling of the offensive in Ukraine, blaming them for thousands of Russian losses.
Now, U.S. President Joe Biden said on Wednesday that President Vladimir Putin is losing the war in Ukraine, but it is too early to tell whether the Russian president has been weakened by the mercenary Wagner Group's aborted rebellion. In his brief remarks, Biden mistakenly referred to Russia as losing the war in Iraq, a blunder he also made late Tuesday when he told a group of re-election campaign donors that he'd united the West in opposing Moscow's onslaught on Iraq. The White House remains cautious on interpreting the fallout from last week's extraordinary events in Russia, where the forces from the Wagner Group, one of the most capable parts of the Russian military in Ukraine, mutinied and threatened to attack Moscow before reversing course. Biden, 80, is leading a Western drive to support Ukraine's resistance to the Russian invasion launched in February last year.
To what extent has Vladimir Putin been weakened by recent events? It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq. He's losing the war at home, and he has become a bit of a pariah around the world. It's not just NATO. It's not just the European Union. It's Japan. It's 40 nations.
Now, riots still continue in France after a teen shooting. We'll come back with this and more stories after this short break. Please stay with us.